For the Country Viewpoint program on Fridays at Flow FM, we've got Andrew Partridge from Michell Wool joining us again for the latest in the wool markets. Andrew, how are you going?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
We were doing well last week. We got the market up, but it's on the way back down again.
Yeah, there's a little bit of reason backed in around that. Apparently last week was one of the last weeks to get wool on ships to deliver before Chinese New Year. So there was a bit of a spurt in the market. People need to finish orders, as it turns out. So after that sort of dissipated and we had the currency going against us, the market sort of wanted to, basically took a pause. And this week was very quiet until probably the last 24, 48 hours. And Chinese are sort of coming back in again, albeit at the higher dollar and selling wool or buying wool at their US level. So, yeah, a little bit market, hopefully a bit better next week.
Yeah, that's a good sign because otherwise you're sort of suggesting, well, the general sort of negative trend was just interrupted by the Chinese New Year buy, but otherwise we could be stuck in these doldrums perhaps whilst the dollar's doing while it's doing in America.
We can, the positive I suppose we could try and draw is that we are suffering with Chinese having their COVID zero policy, so 80% of our wool clip goes over there, and the prediction is that 40% of that 80 stays within their local. It's consumed locally in that country. So you'd have to say with the COVID zero, as it's we've noticed in other countries they have severe lockdowns, but the consumers don't go out, the consumers don't spend. So there is a positive when they do eventually relax those laws that demand will improve for all consumable products, and that being wool as well. So we've just got to wait.
Yes, we certainly do. A little bit of a rise in terms of what's on offer this week compared to previous weeks. What are we looking at in the following weeks?
Amazing what a bit of sunshine does, doesn't it? So the shearing shed's obviously very busy, and again, 7 days a week. I'm guessing a lot of shearers at the moment, so they feel a bit for those sort of guys. A lot of wool coming into the market. We're looking at mid 40,000s the next 2 weeks as we run into Christmas. So two wool sales to go. Around 45,000 bales up next week. We've actually got our first 3-day sale in Melbourne, which we haven't had one for quite a while, next week, and predicting probably the last sale will be a 3-day as well. But as I mentioned, China's a bit more active last night, a bit more inquiry. Dare I say, to the higher offering will have an unchanged or around unchanged sort of market.
So those 3-day offerings, what do we tend to see in terms of market outcomes during those? Does appear to me, just looking across the board, we see probably a lesser pass-in rate. Does that mean that something gets sold over a longer period?
It's sort of getting the impression farmers are now maybe meeting the market a bit more, where earlier on when things are probably a bit more rosy, or they're prepared to maybe just put hard reserves on wool. We seem to be having maybe a few more bills coming in with those farms at the moment and wanting to pay some bills, so putting some wool back on the market. So the passing rates aren't huge. Looking through it though, like there's certainly in West Australia, they love passing a bit of wool in. Around the 10% is probably the norm. We had a 17% pass in this week with a market dropping 30 to 50 cents. If the market sort of drops 10 to 20, I think most growers are happy to sell. When you go over that 20 cent mark, there seems to be a bit more higher passing rate.
Now, I noticed something that you've pushed through from AWEX probably is good for a bit of perspective. We cover it week by week here, but they're saying that we're not far off in terms of almost $1 billion in trade that was last year. We're very close to that this year. Is it good to get that broader perspective?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, you've got to look at, even in the context of what's going on in the world, and the world's not a happy place, there still is an acceptance of people up there stumping up to buy wool. So, definitely. And 21 microns are closing around the 1,300 clean mark. I'm pretty sure farmers wouldn't be too disappointed in getting 1,300 clean for their wool for the next 5 to 10 years. I thought that would be a pretty good price. But crossbreds, unfortunately, I see they quote the 28 micron indicator out of New South Wales at 317 cents, which is the lowest on record. So a bit of a sombre point there.
Yeah, well, hopefully we can lift that in the final 2 sales weeks. We'll check in with you next Friday about it all. Andrew Partridge from Michell Wool, thanks so much for joining us today.
Cheers.